Well, I was just hoping that Mark Sanchez was not going to get hurt after he came in. Because Mark Sanchez played a typical Mark Sanchez game. So, um, Eagles go on to win 27-13 against Dallas. You know what? I know Dallas had some backups in there and such, but you know what? The way this season went, I'm just, you know what? I'll take a win, particularly against Dallas. You know, two things I love is when the Eagles win, and particularly when they beat Dallas. No matter what the situation is, it's always a good thing. And you know what? They finished the season strong. It's 7-9. I know it was a rough season. You know, particularly after starting 3-0, I think a lot of us, myself included, got pretty, you know, excited for that and happy for that. You know, and maybe it was fool's gold, maybe, but you know, we went through a roller coaster ride this season, and it's the first season with Doug Peterson as the head coach, the first season with Carson Wentz as the quarterback. I think you saw some positives. I think you saw some things that they need to improve on, obviously. Listen, it's, you know, no easy way to sugarcoat this. I mean, Chip Kelly did a lot of bad, you know, with this franchise and put them in a really bad spot. The players that were released or traded, talent like that, it's hard to, you know, make up for that. And I'm not using it as an excuse, believe me. The players who are on the team still should have played, you know, at a higher level, particularly at the wide receiver position and at cornerback. Just not enough. The key going forward now, and it's not going to change overnight. This is not a one-off season fix. We had one off season so far where they were able to address and find and pick their franchise quarterback. And I do believe Carson Wentz is going to have some really good years here. Because and did he make some mistakes this season? Absolutely. You know, but it's his first season in the National Football League. He is a rookie. And I know that Dak Prescott had a tremendous season for Dallas. And a lot of people, you know, say, well, but look what Dak did, and this and that and the other thing, and I get that. And I'm not taking anything away from what he did. He did have a tremendous season. I do think it helped him that he had Elliott to hand the ball off to. I think it helped him. He has that tremendous offensive line in front of him, the receivers that he has, the weapons. Even when Dez was out, he still has Beasley, you know, to throw to, Witten to throw to. Even Williams, I would still take them over the receivers we have. And again, I'm not taking anything away from him, but if you put Carson, if those players, if those weapons were on the Eagles, and Carson Wentz had that, I don't think they're 7-9. I think they're a little better than 7-9. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Dak. Believe me, he has had a tremendous season. He could be an MVP. I mean, I would give it to Zeke, but you know, Dak could very well walk away with an MVP. But he has a lot there, a lot that I'm hoping that the Eagles organization can get for Carson Wentz. Because when you have a franchise quarterback, you have to surround him with weapons. You have to, and you have to protect them too. Offensive line, you know, that's something that, you know, needs to continue to be built. I like the tackles. The guards, I think they, you know, if they can find another guard in the draft or in free agency to come in here, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, look, Kelsey's given us some good years at center. He has. I know he gets harped on a lot for the penalties and whatnot, undersized and everything, but he's given us some solid years. But I do think it's time to move on, and I think it's time to find another center replacement for Kelsey, maybe a bigger center. You know, again, an anchor of that offensive line is a center. I do think Kelsey has some strengths. I mean, his blocking downfield when he's not being called for holds is certainly good. He's an athletic center. But he does get beat a lot when you have that dominant nose tackle in front of him because he is undersized. And I'd like to see them address that. I'd like to see them get a bigger center, solid center, whether it's in the draft, free agency, what have you. I think that's something that needs to be addressed. A lot of times you see when they go up against a team that has a very good defensive front. I mean, Kelsey's getting pushed back into Wentz. and that's certainly not a good thing. So I'd like to, I thank Kelsey for his seasons here, but I would like to see them, go in another direction this offseason. And again, it helps to, again, in the focus of building that offensive line. You look at the teams that are winning this season, the teams who have been good for a number of years, offensive line. Dallas built an offensive line. Oakland built an offensive line. Doesn't get talked a lot about a lot, I should say. Yes, I was up late last night. It was New Year's Eve, so words are a little difficult. But doesn't get enough talk. I don't think their offensive line, they've been tremendous, and that's one of the reasons why Oakland kind of had that resurgent season. You look at what, Kansas City. I mean, they have a very good offensive line. New England. I mean, how many times do you see Brady getting sacked, right? Well, he's a generational quarterback, but he also has a very good offensive line in front of him. And then there are teams that kind of get away with it. I mean, Seattle doesn't have a great offensive line, but they have a quarterback that's mobile, kind of makes things happen when things break down. But you don't want that all the time. And I think Wentz is more athletic and mobile than people give him credit for, but you don't want to see him just run around all the time and have the risk of injury. So building that offensive line is key. Getting playmakers is key. The only player on this Eagles offense that scares any opposing defensive player is Sproles. I know he said next season's his last year. He wants to retire. But he is the only player, even at his advanced age, that scares an opposing defense when he's on the field. That's not a good thing. When you have one guy that a defense has to be afraid of, they need more. And I know Zach Ertz has flashed at times this season. It's really what he's done his whole career. I really hope that he can get more consistent, because I think he is a good tight end in this league. I mean, when he's playing like he did today, I mean, he's one of the more, he shows he can be one of the more dominant tight ends in the league. But he has a tendency of doing this for like a game or two, and then he disappears for a few games. I like the toughness that he showed today. I mean, he did. He played well down the stretch. I mean, he had a good game against the Giants. He played well tonight. But we need to see more. We need to see more of 86. I like the fact that him and Wentz have seemed to build a bit of a rapport going through the last month of the season. I like that. I think that's a positive going into the offseason and into next season. But we need to have more consistent play from Zach. Tremendous game today. Was really one of the big reasons why they were able to come back and win this game. He had a tremendous game. He did. He showed toughness. He didn't go down on the first tackle a lot like sometimes he does. But we need to see more out of him. And I think he has a chance to do it. Going into the coming seasons. Look, he got a paycheck this offseason. He's got to earn that. He's got to earn that money. Earn that green. The running back situation, I mean, look, Matthews is on the book for another season. If they want to keep him, if they want to release him, he's a guy that gets injured a lot. He fumbles. I mean, we know this. It's been well documented. I think the young guys that they had there at the end, Watson, I think they flashed, and I think if they decide that, okay, well, we'll go with these guys and Smallwood and release Matthews, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But really, you have to have rhythm as a running back. And if it's just going to be running back by committee, and not one of these backs is going to be able to get that rhythm, I don't know if that's such a good thing. I'd like to see them find that running back or two and just go with that, instead of, okay, then now first down it's you, second down it's you, third down it's you. I don't think that works. I really don't. Maybe it's worked from time to time, but not consistently. You need, a running back needs a rhythm. He needs to get in a rhythm and in the course of a game, and just doing the by committee thing, you can't find rhythm that way, and it's a hard way to play the position. But I liked what I saw out of the young backs the last few weeks. Wendell Smallwood before he got hurt. I think he was showing some things. I mean, I think it is a bit it is a bit of a misnomer about the run to pass ratio for this team this season, because the Eagles weren't amongst one of the worst teams with running. The fact is they had to throw a lot in a lot of those games because they were behind. I mean, the Giants game, in New York, or Meadowlands, I should say, they were down 14-0 right out of the chute. Of course, Cincinnati, they were down. Some of these other games, they're behind, so it's like you have to throw. But they actually had some balance. I mean, they were actually a pretty, when you look at the final numbers for the season, I don't have them in front of me, but when you look at the final numbers for the season, the Eagles were actually a pretty balanced offense, run-to-pass ratio. It's just there were certain games in there, Seattle too, where they just had to throw a lot because they were down. And it's hard to establish a running game when you're down, for most of the game. You have to pass. So that's the running back situation. Wide receiver, look, it's it's the elephant in the room. I mean, it is something that needs to be addressed this offseason, and I do believe they will. And I believe they will make a play for Deshaun Jackson, unless the Redskins throw him a boatload of money to stay there. He's not a number one, but he is a wide receiver who brings fear to a defense. And he is still one of the best deep ball wide receivers in the league. And he's still one of my all-time favorite Eagles. So I'd love to see Deshaun come back and, be an Eagle again, hashtag bring back D-Jax. I'd love to see him back. But I don't think that Deshaun Jackson alone cures everything. So I definitely think you need to find some, another receiver in there, whether it's a Kenny Britt, someone that can come in and be the, maybe a veteran type receiver to kind of teach the young guys a couple things. That's something they need. You're not just going to win. You're not just going to overnight go from one of the worst wide receiving cores to one of the best just because you bring Deshaun Jackson back. I think you need at least another receiver. You need two this offseason. D-Jax and Kenny Britt, or insert name here. Another receiver. I preferably would be a veteran receiver, but we'll see. Jordan Matthews, and I also think that would make Jordan Matthews your slot receiver. He's better in the slot than on the outside, even with his drops. He's better as a slot receiver than as an outside receiver, than as a one or two. So I would certainly love to see him in the slot next season. Again, consistency out of the tight end position. Zach Ertz, I think Clay Harbor will have a bigger role next season. Selleck will be here. He's one of those, elder statement type leader type players. I don't think he'll get a ton of snaps next season, but again, he's a leader in the locker room. He's a guy that can teach, an Ertz, a Harbor, how to play that position, how to be more consistent. Hopefully, we can see that out of Zach Ertz next season. Again, I like the way they finished the season. And again, it seems funny to say that because, you finish 7-9, you're out of the playoffs for a third straight year. It's hard to take a lot of positives out of this, but I like the way this team played in December. They could have laid down and just whatever, maybe win today because Dallas has the most of the starters out or whatever, but they fought. I mean, they fought in the Redskins game, the Ravens game, the Giants game, which they won on Thursday night, and now today. I mean, they showed character and heart. And I said this before, when Andy had his first season here as the head coach those many years ago, the Eagles did not have a good year. But they won the last two games. I believe it was against the Rams, who went on to win the Super Bowl that year, and the Patriots. And in doing so, it was almost like that was like a springboard to what they would become. Where they they had to get some pieces in there, and they drafted Donovan, and that worked out pretty well. They were able to bring in more pieces on offense and defense, but they went from being a laughing stock to a playoff contender, and then to a team that would go on to go to multiple NFC Championship games, eventually go to a Super Bowl. Years later, go to another NFC Championship game. They were in the hunt like every year. They went from a team that, to put them in Super Bowl in the same sentence was laughable, and then they became a team that was a Super Bowl contender for at least a stretch of how many years in a row. They didn't win it, but they were in the conversation every year. And going into every season, we felt that they had a legitimate chance to win it, which was a far cry from when Andy Reid was a rookie head coach. And again, it goes back to showing some flash at the end of that first season to what they, were able to do. So with that, there are a lot of things that they need to do. There's a lot of things that they need to correct. This is not a one-off season fix. This is a multiple-year, multiple off-season, change and turnaround. I believe they did well this past off-season with, the moves they made. Certainly Carson Wentz. I like some of the other rookies that, had some chances this season. I think Vitae, after the struggles the first series against the Redskins, I think he showed some things. I mean, Jalen Mills, he's young and raw. He showed some flash. I don't know if he's a 1 or 2 corner, but maybe he's a situational corner. Cornerback is certainly something they have to address this offseason if you talk about the defensive side of the ball. And again, a lot of the teams that win, unless you just have a dynamic offense that kind of makes up for it, you have to have a solid defense. And one of the things about this team is that one of the big questions going into the offseason is going to be Benny Logan. Are they going to be able to bring him back? I don't know if they can, because salary cap-wise, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. They spent a lot of money this offseason in re-signing some of their players and obviously and free agents. So this offseason, they're not going to have that type of money to play with, and Benny Logan might have too big of a dollar sign to be able to re-sign. I'd love to see them re-sign him. I mean, earlier in the year before he got hurt, he was one of the better defensive tackles in the league. I mean, he and Fletcher Cox, were so dominant there at the beginning of that season, and then it just, after Benny got hurt, it just wasn't the same. And I know he came back, but he was still playing hurt. He just wasn't the same player. I do think that he's a very good defensive tackle. I'd love to see him be here for the rest of his career. But the numbers, do kind of get in the way. And this is a team that they have a lot of needs that they need to address this offseason. And Benny Logan's price tag might be too much to be able to bring him back. So we might not see Benny back next season. And mixed emotions about that, obviously. To have a dominant defensive line is so important, particularly when you're in a division where you're going to have to go up against Zeke, Dallas and Zeke Elliott twice a year. Obviously, the Redskins, they have a nice young running back. They're coming along there too. I'm blanking on his name right now. But kind of like a Marshawn Lynch type, looking type back. That again, these are the teams you're going to be fighting against. The Giants, obviously, you want to get pressure on Eli because so he doesn't have all day to throw the ball up there to Beckham and those young. The other Shepard and Cruz and whatnot, and the receiving core that they have there might not have a great running game, but they certainly have a great receiving core. So it's about getting pressure, certainly on Eli, but addressing this defense, obviously cornerback, it needs to get better. It really needs to get better, and it's been a number of years now, and it's really frustrating, to watch a group of corners that just get burned as many times as they do. I mean, this team, I think they gave the stat, they led the league this year in 30-plus yard plays against. I mean, it's unacceptable, and a big part of that is because they're corners. They're not good at coverage. They just get beat way too many times. And it's like when they're running with the receiver, they just don't turn their head to look for the ball. They just never do. And when they do, they hold the receiver and get flagged for it. I mean, they need to upgrade the cornerback position. I don't know how easy that's going to be. I don't know if you can do that in the draft. You get some free agents. I don't think the free agent crop's going to be that great at cornerback this offseason, so you're going to have to hit in the draft. And that's where the scouts, the coaching staff, the GM, that's this offseason, this draft, and really the next few years' drafts are so crucial to help turn this thing around. I think they had a good draft last offseason. I really do. And now they have to continue that. And you see the teams that are winning, and like I said, they hit in the draft. And because of that, they're able to have these successful seasons. It's not just getting the free agencies. You're never going to win by just bringing in free agents. You never win that way. You have to hit in the draft. And that's going to be priority one for this team this offseason is hitting in that draft. Not just the first round or two, it's the later rounds. It's who you get in rounds 4, 5, 6 that are going to help contribute to the team. You need to hit. And cornerback is something that they need. I'd like to see them get a middle linebacker because I believe that Jordan Hicks is better on the outside. And I know he had a really good game today, 2 interceptions. He seems to love to play Dallas, doesn't he? He tortures them. But I think he's better suited as an outside linebacker. He has good speed. He is a bit undersized. It's not to say that undersized linebackers can't make a good middle linebacker. Some of the best ever to play were undersized. Okay, so it's not to say that, but I think his skill set is more for the outside. I just think he's a better outside linebacker than inside or middle linebacker. So I'd like to see them address that. Safety, I think they're okay with. I mean, Jenkins and McLeod, they're not young, but I think they can give you another couple of solid years. So I think they're okay with safety. I just think, it's like those two have to help so much on the outside because the corners just aren't good enough. And I'd love to see this team with good corners because I like the safeties they have, particularly Jenkins, who's a playmaking type of safety. It's just he needs to help so many times with the cornerbacks because they're just too bad that you can't see him for, what he could be and what these safeties could be. So I'd love to see this team with good corners again. I mean, it has been since Shepard and Brown that we've had, or maybe if you want to throw Asante Samuel in there, certainly, but it's been that long. I mean, we're going 4 or 5 seasons now. So they need to address the cornerback. I think that's priority one on this defense this offseason. Inside linebacker, middle linebacker, another defensive end. And to be honest, I mean, I know he's not young, but I do believe Connor Barwin's better on the outside than he is as a defensive end. Maybe if they can find another defensive end, put Connor on the outside in a linebacking position. Again, he's not young, but I think that he's better in that situation than as a pass rushing defensive end. He just doesn't have that quick first step anymore to be able to get by the tackle. It just, it seems like he's just not quite what he was, years ago. Obviously, when you get older, you're going to lose a step. I like him as a player. I mean, look, he's one of the leaders on this defense, but I would almost rather see him as an outside linebacker than as a defensive end. So I think if they can find a defensive end in the draft, free agency, whatever, I think that's something that they need to do, and, to have that depth too. Brandon Graham had a tremendous season, and, Brandon Graham's contract's coming to a point where next season they're going to have to, pay him. And I think he in this defense, I think he's flourished. He's had a great year. I mean, he could have been a Pro Bowler this season. I felt he just had a really good year, but they need more. They need more from the other side. I mean, Vinny Curry, after he got paid, it was a letdown type of year. We need more out of him. And Connor, again, if they switch him to linebacker in this offseason, I wouldn't be opposed to that. As an outside linebacker, although, again, age could be an issue. But they need to find another really good young pass rushing end. If anything else, for depth, so you get a little rotation going, and they just didn't have that this season. That's one of the downfalls of the team this season. They just never had that depth at defensive end. So they're going to have to find that. Again, I don't think that they're that far away. This season, I mean, I know it's a 7-9 year, but they were in just about every game. I mean, they had chances to win at the end. In so many of these games, they just couldn't close it out. They just couldn't. The only game that they got blown out in was the Cincinnati game. Other than that, they were in every single ball game. I mean, they just had a chance. at the end, if one play broke right for them here or there, they could have had a much better record. So I don't think they're that far away. But I do think they need help, and they need to do it in a draft, and they need to get some weapons for Wentz this offseason, this free agency. Bring back D-Jax, get another receiver in here. Again, build this thing. It is. It's going to take a few seasons. And going into this season, I thought it was a rebuilding type of year, and they go 3-0 right out of the chute, and you're like, ooh, well, maybe. And it wasn't just that they went through, it's how they looked at 3-0. They were dominant on both sides of the ball. They looked it against Pittsburgh. Look at Pittsburgh now, one of the best teams in the AFC. So I don't know if that was just a fluke, or if it was like, okay, well then, Lane Johnson got suspended. We knew that was coming, but he gets suspended for 10 games. Some players get hurt. Some, play inconsistent plays. And as in an NFL season, it's a roller coaster ride. So it just fell apart. It fell apart after the bye week. But again, they were in so many of those games, and it's like they should have won a few of those games. I think the youth kind of showed it in Carson and some of the other skill positions. I think it certainly showed it in some of those games, and when they could have finished out some of those games, they just couldn't. But maybe next season, those are wins. Maybe the losses become wins. I think that it was altogether a disappointing season because of those games, because of those close losses. But I take heart in how they finished. And I like how they played in December. And it might not seem like a lot because they weren't going to be a playoff team or whatnot, but in the first season for your head coach, and a lot of people are saying, oh, fire Doug Peterson. I don't think so. Because, again, I don't want to be on that hamster wheel. Look at the teams that have new head coaches every year. What happens to them, right? You don't win that way. You need to allow for Doug to really sink his feet in the dirt, as it were, with this team, with this organization, with this group of Eagles, with this organization, and really start to put his mark on it. I like how they played in December, and I think that does say something about Doug. Is he the next coming of, I don't know, Bill Parcells, Vince Lombardi? Probably not. But you don't know. It's one season. It's a season that I know is another non-playoff, below 500 losing season. But I like how this team played in December. And I like how they responded after that dreck of a game against Cincinnati. And, they played for him. And we can say what we want. Oh, well, his play calling, his this, his that. We can say there are things he needs to work on and get better at. Absolutely, he doesn't have to go for it as much on fourth down. In the coming season, some of the challenges is like you don't really need to challenge there, Doug. It's a yard. You don't have to worry. He needs to get better, and with the play calling, yes. But again, you look at the personnel. I don't know who could have great play calling with this personnel, particularly with the wide receivers. I don't know if there's a coach that could come out there. You can have the greatest coaches of all time coach this team this season. If the players aren't making the plays, what's it matter? If the receivers are dropping passes, doesn't really matter. Again, I look at it as how they finished, how December went, to judge what Doug Peterson did as a whole. Okay, there were games where, he didn't do a great job. As Andy Reid wants to do a better job. But I do think they played well in December, and I do think that says something about the coaching staff and how they finished. And you can use that as a springboard going forward. Now, you do have to get more talent, like I said, and I sound like a broken record with that, I know. But you need talent in this league to win. You need it. That's what Chip didn't understand. And oh, by the way, good old Chip, one and done in San Francisco. Probably going to be back in college next season. Maybe he goes back to Oregon. Who knows? But he did not understand that. And I do believe Doug understands it. I think this regime understands about the talent because you make priority number one last offseason to move up in the draft and to get your franchise quarterback. That is understanding, okay, this is a position we need. And look, they're not stupid. They're seeing what's going on the field. They know this receiving core is a laughing stock. They need to make moves, and they will. So I don't want to use the Sixers trust the process here, but let's kind of have a little more faith in this organization, and okay, they're going to make the moves this offseason to start the, I should say continue to put this thing together, where we're going from seasons like this, the seasons where we're looking forward to playoff runs. You got to start somewhere, and it doesn't happen in one off season. It doesn't happen overnight. This was a team that was torn apart by Chip Kelly, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, and now they need to get it back. And it takes a few off seasons to do that. We just have to understand that as a fan base. I do believe they will, and I hope, like I said, this off season it's all about starting to get those weapons for Carson and putting him in a better position to win games. These close games that were losses this year, put him in better positions to have games where the close losses are going to be the games that you come back and win. And you do that by getting weapons. Players that are going to put fear in an opposing defense. A player like a Deshaun Jackson who, you have to worry about on the outside. Maybe that opens something up for Jordan Matthews on the inside and for Zach Ertz. It's just little things like that make a big difference, and hopefully that's something this team can do this offseason. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do to continue to build this. And, hopefully they get the right pieces in here, not just in free agency, but in the draft, where it's crucial that you have to hit on your draft picks to become a successful franchise. And I think that they had a decent draft this offseason. Now they got to continue it. Follow it up. Get some more weapons, not just on offense, but on the defensive side of the ball, particularly cornerback. Like I said, linebacker, defensive end, someone that can bring depth to that position would be certainly good. Special teams, they were great. I mean, we really can't complain. Another great year by Dave Phipp. He's just a tremendous special teams coach. Another great year by Donnie Jones. Darren Sproles, of course, the return game, the blocking, and hey, tip the hat to Caleb Sturgis. He had a really good year, certainly a lot of credit goes to the coaching staff for that too, and the special teams, of course. I mean, they've been tremendous, and as long as he stays here as the special teams coach, I'm sure they'll be tremendous again next season and for the seasons to come. So that's the one thing we can kind of look at and say, okay, we're okay there. Nice blocked punt today towards the end of the game too. So again, special teams, special. I mean, they're probably the best unit in the NFL altogether. Yet again, things need to get fixed. We know that. Things need to get fixed. It was a tough 7-9 season. Lots of kind of growing pains, I guess you could say, was this season with Carson Wentz and the coaching staff. But I think you learn from that, and you get better. And it's tough to watch at times. I know as a fan, all we want is this team to win. It's something that we've been wanting for so long, and the hope is that the seeds are planted now to get to that level, and you got to start someplace. And so this was the starting point, 7-9, the Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz era. Okay, finish strong, good, positive signs for this offseason and going forward. And let's get better. Let's get some weapons. Let's get better, because I do believe we have the right quarterback in place, and it's just about giving him some more toys to play with, as it were. So I just want to take a moment also to thank all my viewers for watching and for the feedback and enjoying the series. It's like I said a few seasons ago when I started this, I wanted people to kind of see what it is to be a fan of this team, because it's not easy. To the point where a lot of people, when they're younger and they grow up in this area, become Dallas fans, because it's too hard to be an Eagles fan. It's not easy to be a fan of this franchise. They have, there's been a lot of heartache over the years, but there's been some good moments too. And there's been some moments that I'm thankful that I was able to see. I mean, I at least saw my team in a Super Bowl. I mean, I know there's fans that haven't seen that yet. They haven't won it yet. I'm hoping to God, like all other Eagle fans out there, myself and Mike Trout and all other Eagle Nation out there, it's what we want to see more than anything else. And I do think it would mean more to us than maybe some of these other fan bases, because we know what going through pain is, to get to that moment. But I wanted to make this series to kind of show people what it is. And, as we went into this, as we've gone along, it's become more about Xing and O'ing it afterwards, after each game. But I do want to do some more next season with, going through, maybe take some footage, watching the games and whatnot, and doing some editing later. I don't know. We'll see. But I enjoy doing this. This is now the conclusion of the third season I've done this. The Eagles haven't made the playoffs yet, but it's cool because it is a starting point. You guys can kind of see, okay, this is what it was like during losing years, and hopefully when this team gets better, and I do believe they will get better, when they get better and they get to those, double-digit win seasons and go into the playoffs and having success, you guys can see that too. So it's like, okay, this is the beginning. when there's been a lot of down, and then we get from that to the good, and so I think it's kind of cool that I started during a time when they were kind of going through a bit of, well, I mean, they were in the Chip Kelly years, but it was like going through this transaction now, and kind of taking that ride with me, and my fellow Eagle fans out there. Like I said, I enjoy doing this. I have a passion for being a fan of this franchise and the teams here in the city. It's hard. It's not for the weak-willed, but it's something that I'm proud of, and I wouldn't want to be a fan of any other. I'm glad to be an Eagles fan, even though we're going through losing years now, but that's what being a fan is. You have to be there for them when they're down. You can't just be there when they're up, and it's what you have to go through as a fan with your team. Sometimes they let you down, and I always say that being a fan, you're going to be let down more than not, because your team isn't going to win every year. The best teams in the history of sports don't win every year, so they're going to let you down. But you have to be there and experience, the good and bad times and get through it. The good times are even sweeter when you go through bad times like this. So I'm glad that people enjoy the series. I mean, I try my best with it to break it down as best I can. I'm not an expert. I don't have all these stats in front of me and stuff. Maybe I should at times, but I just try to break it down as best I can. I'm happy that people enjoy the series. I've done it now three seasons. Next season will be number 4. I will continue to do this series, win or lose. I'll be there after every game. You can trust that. So thank you all for joining. I went ahead. I made playlists. If anyone wants to binge watch this series, I have playlists for seasons 1, 2, and now 3. Once this video will be up, I'll put that into the season 3 playlist. So feel free to watch it if you want. It's the past 3 seasons of Eagles football put together. One playlist per season. So if you have time, you just want to go ahead and watch it. You're welcome to that. I thought it would just be easier for people to find it on my channel than going through all the videos, so went ahead and made some playlists there. And that's going to do it. That's going to wrap up the 2016-17 Philadelphia Eagles Season of the Fan Series. Back-to-back below 500 seasons is tough, 7-9. But I do think we have some promise for the future. It's just about building to that. The draft this spring is in Philadelphia, so that's going to be fun. I welcome all the fans to come on down to my city for the draft this year, even you Dallas fans. Maybe we can even meet up someplace, say hi and whatnot. So that's going to conclude the 2016-17 Season of the Fan Series. Again, thank you all for watching. I hope you guys, enjoyed it, and I look forward to bringing you season 4 once the off season really starts to roll around, and then when we get to the draft and all. So some good things to look forward to next season and this off season. And again, it's about building. It's about building. We're here. We want to get to here, so it's about building it to get to there. Eagles win yet again, the final game of the regular season, the final game, unfortunately, for the Eagles season. 27-13 over the hated Cowboys, and go to 7-9 to finish the season. If you're a fan of a team that's in the playoffs, enjoy it. I'm still... it hurts 3 years in a row being out of the playoffs, but the playoffs are such a fun time. I know when the Eagles were in there, it just, it's a one and done thing, so it's very kind of heart racing, but it's great when your team's in it. So for those of you fans out there who have a team in there, enjoy it. It should be a fun postseason. Some good matchups in there, and we'll see what happens. Before the season, I picked Seattle over Pittsburgh, but they're both in, so we'll see. We'll see if that preseason prediction comes to be. I've rambled on for 40 minutes plus, almost 41 minutes. I'm sorry about that, but as I've said, I want to thank all my viewers out there. Maybe not the trolls, but the real viewers out there who, gave me some feedback. We had some little back and forth. I know, me and some of the Dallas fans. Although, by the way, this was the first season that Dallas fans actually commented on my videos. I find that kind of, you guys are having a good year and now you start commenting. Okay. Oh, one last shot, but anyhow, I thank you all. Eagles Nation, I know it's tough. These seasons they test you the most being a fan, but I do think we have some positives to take from it, and I do think we have our franchise quarterback. Just need to get him some weapons, build this offense, build this defense, and let's get to the playoffs again very, very soon and have a chance to win it all, as we all are dreaming and hoping to someday be able to do. All right, everyone, thanks for watching yet again. Shout-outs to Eagles Nation. And I will see you all in my regular series for the jersey collecting. But to the Eagle fans and all you football fans out there, I'll see you all actually in the spring for the off-season. I'll have some off-season videos for the Season of the Fan coming up to Season 4. Woohoo! Getting up there. All right, everyone, take care. Go Birds as always.